Prince Rogers Nelson. He was a visionary. He did it entirely on his own terms. Brilliant musician.
Quite the Prince expert.
He's a super fan.
I would put him in super fanhood status.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Guardians of the Vinyl Vault. 4 old friends, 1 sacred vault, and a lineup of artists awaiting judgment.
So welcome to show 2 of Guardians of the Vault. It's the new show coming to you from the guys from Vinyl Vault. And in this show, we take one artist and one of us has to pitch as to whether we would put them into the vault at either platinum, sort of this most luxurious level, club lounge, which is sort of basic, or we just plainly banned for life. You've already heard about the Smiths, and we now move to Richard, where he's going to talk to us about the purple one. But anyway, just before we get into that, and Prince, the purple one, I mean, was everybody into him at the time?
Very much so. Without, because as Richard has told us before, we shouldn't be bringing our preconceptions to this. So I'm bringing it in a very neutral way. But Prince was such a massive part of the 80s. I am very much looking forward to this because Richard's quite the Prince expert. It has to be said.
He is.
Would you go as far to say that he's a super fan?
Let's debate. Oh, a super. Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
Super.
Yeah, he could be. Could be.
Yeah, I would put him in super fanhood status, I have to say.
And would you go as far to say it's his number 1?
Yes, I would.
What, over George Michael and what?
Whenever we've done previous
that'd be
shows
interesting.
on the Vinyl Vault, over the years, he has definitely argued harder for Prince than any other artist.
Well, let's find out because I'm sure in future episodes we'll be hearing a little bit more about George Michael.
Right. Well, Richard, over to you to make the pitch for the purple one.
All right, guys. Well, it seems like the obvious choice for me to start in this new format that we're doing. But when we talk about musical geniuses, we often hear names like, Mozart or Beethoven or the Beatles. But there's another name that absolutely brings itself into that conversation. And that, of course, is Prince Rogers Nelson, as we know him as Prince. Prince was born on June the 7th, 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a city that would later become the heart of his signature sound. But he wasn't just a performer or a songwriter. He was a visionary, someone who redefined what music could be. And he did it entirely on his own terms. Now, that's really important to me. Prince was a true one-man band, especially when it came to the recording studio, not when he, of course, toured and went live. For example, on his debut album, an album that people often forget, called For You, released when he was only 19, he wrote, arranged, produced, and performed every single track himself, playing 27 different instruments. Now, that's not just something you just do to show off, like the guys in the music room at school. It's something you do when your brain hears sounds that no one else can yet imagine. You make them real. He could play funk bass, guitar like Hendrix, and then sit at a piano and make you cry with a ballad. But it wasn't just...
Is that guitar like Jimi Hendrix or Hendrix?
Not Hendrix, the gin, no. Jimi Hendrix. But it wasn't just his technical skill, it was his fearless...
Don't interrupt him, he's 2 minutes into it and he's only got to the first album.
Fearless creativity.
37 albums.
Prince refused to be boxed into one genre. He music blended rock, punk, pop, R&B, and even jazz on albums like Parade. Thinks of songs like Purple Rain, a song that combines gospel emotion, rock guitar, and pop melody into one timeless anthem, probably one of my favorite songs. That song and the film with the same score even earned him an Academy Award in 1985 for Best Original Song Score. For example, another song off that album, When Doves Cry, a massive hit, but it had no bass line, something that broke every rule of pop production at that time. He was a revolutionary in the music industry. He fought for artistic ownership long before it was fashionable to do so. When his label tried to take full control, he wrote the word slave on his face. And then, of course, he became the artist formerly known as Prince. It wasn't a publicity stunt. It was all about freedom, creativity, and self-respect. People like Taylor Swift have done that now, re-recording all their albums because the company won't let them do it under their own previous name. His live performances were another level of genius. Prince wasn't just singing songs, he was giving an experience. I went to see the Love Sexy tour where he had a bed, a basketball, and he came on in a Corvette and circled the stage. So he always tried to do something different on his live shows. Musicians who played with him said he could change keys, tempos, or songs mid-performance, and the band would have to keep up because he expected nothing less, than excellence. He didn't need backing tracks, auto-tune, or gimmicks. He just had raw talent, charisma, and control.
I can see the smoke coming out of ChatGPT at the moment.
Oh, no. In the 1980s,
did you say to ChatGPT 4 minutes or 14 minutes?
he mixed masculinity and feminine styles, lace gloves, high heels, ruffled shirts. I remember watching the Kiss video on the Tube, where he was just where he had no top and he was spinning around like a ballerina. Just something completely unique. And I think he's influenced plenty of artists like Lenny Kravitz, Beyonce, The Weeknd, and so forth. To finish off, over his career, he released over more than 39 studio albums, wrote hit songs for Sinead O'Connor. Of course, we know that Nothing Compares to You. The Bangles, Manic Monday. His songs still sound fresh today. And so why, at the end of the day, should Prince be treated as a musical genius? Because genius isn't just about talent. It's about vision, innovation, and courage. Prince had all three. He changed the sound of popular music. And as he once sang, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. He didn't just get through life. He transformed it into art. He died.
He did.
Sadly,
he did get through life.
No, sadly, he died far too young. He had plenty more in the bank, just like his vault is, full of songs that he never released. And that's what true genius looks like. So therefore, I commend that Prince has put, to me, no-brainer to the very platinum level of the Guardians of the Vinyl Vault. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I feel like I've just had a church-like experience. Really,
it was
very earnest, wasn't it?
The only thing is missing was the hands up in the air talking. That's the only thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today.
Is that the first time I've heard "thank you" at the end of something?
Thank you.
Damn that ChatGPT! I told it not to put "thank you" at the
end. No, you should put it into miserable mode like Stephen and I do, and then
true. Can I start in this one, Rodney? Because as you know, in the previous episode, I was very vociferous. Big word for you, Steve.
You nearly managed that as well.
I nearly did. Yeah, on what us as Guardians of the Vault should be. And I think Richard very, very well put across all the things that are required to get into the Vault, such as, for example, he did take the stadium tours. He forgot to mention that Prince was actually at halftime at the Super Bowl. He did a performance whenever he did Purple Rain in the Rain. So the iconic performance. He owned the 80s with the albums, but as Richard said, there's 39 albums rather than the flipping 4 albums that you came off with, Stephen and the Smiths.
It's
we also great things in this here, which I loved as well. He gifted away songs like Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. Richard left out I Feel for You by Shaka Khan.
Yeah.
Which again, he was mysterious, magical, and mastered. And again, why you should get to this status is he could play, was it Richard, you said 27 different instruments. And then whenever he brought the band
and not just 27 instruments, there was 64 positions in a one-night stand as well. He was multi-talented, wasn't he, really?
The songs were mastered by that. And then we had, even whenever the band then released some of his songs, such as the elements of the new power generation, like Wendy and Lisa, Apollonia,
The Bell of St.
Vanity,
Mark's by
whatever.
Sheila E. I think he wrote that as
that's right,
well. Great pop song.
We missed
You're going on
Sheila,
nearly as long as he is. We know what way
Exact-
you're
but-
going to
but-
vote now.
Sheena Easton, he also did that as well. Remember, you've got the look. So
Oh,
he was classic as
he
duets as well.
he actually recreated Sheena.
Oh,
I
I tell you what, Gareth,
to our
you only
listeners.
had to mention Sheena.
Exactly.
And it looked
Yeah, he does. No, it was Rodney. Rodney had
He was
the
asleep. He was
fixation.
asleep, and as soon as we mentioned Sheena Easton, he was
Oh,
straight in.
Bang! Oh, Sheena, well, lovely woman.
But so for whenever
he sat erect in his chair then.
Don't you
The-
mention her in that way.
You need to put that down as an edit
Oh.
point.
But it's true, he
The,
did bring people into the fold.
Shot
Yeah.
straight up, didn't he?
Yeah. So therefore, whenever we're trying to guard that platinum status, there is so many things. And then let's not forget the most important one, Richard. He won an Oscar and he won Grammys.
So
And there
I'm
are very few.
for the purposes of debate, I'm going to throw some in here. I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
The career tailed off quite significantly,
Yes,
did it not?
it did.
And does that therefore count against him?
I know what you're saying is that some of the later material was, say, weaker, but when you compare it to albums like Purple Rain, 1999, Parade, when you get such brilliant albums like that, I suppose anything later on in your career, you're going to struggle to get to the heights of those albums. But I think that's also got something to do with the fact that he put so much material out there that it was definitely more miss than hit at the very end. But I think he proved by even bringing out The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which was in the 90s, I think, early 90s. He could still, no, it wasn't early 90s. He was about 24. So he could still bring a hit song. I think he was challenged to make a pop song that would get to #1, and it did.
Is there an argument, and not harking back to a previous episode, but for the benefit of future episodes as well, is there an argument that says longevity can be on the face of it a good thing, but so can a short and illustrious career?
Yeah.
Because then you don't necessarily run into the challenges and trouble of producing some absolute crap later in your career.
But let's define that further. The good thing about Prince was every single album was different and had a different sound. And Richard did talk there, the jazz.
To an extent.
Whatever. No, you look at it. You go from Purple Rain, which was, sort of rocky, good tunes. And then we moved to Around the World in a Day, which is more psychedelic.
And
then we
very
moved
much
to
more
Sign of the
experimental, yeah.
Times,
And I would argue
is more political.
possibly his best album of all time.
And
I would agree.
You're actually also forgetting the movie side of what he was doing as well.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating about him and the most impressive thing about him is he was essentially he was the band, he was the writer, the singer, he was everything. The how intense that must have been. And I'm not surprised that he sort of burned out, if you like, creatively, because he was doing everything himself, really. He was playing 20 odd instruments. He was producing, he was writing, he was performing. It was such an intense period of time. It's almost like it was meant, it was meant to be the way it turned out, i.e. that, he died at that age. It was almost like, he couldn't do any more. I just think that you don't get many characters, never mind artists like Prince, who actually just pushed their artistry and their culture further. And I go back actually to the collaborations and the people who work with him. That's a sign, I think, that you realize how important somebody actually is.
Yeah, he had the bottle, didn't he, to try different things, and sometimes they worked magnificently, and sometimes under a cherry moon they were absolutely appalling. Although interestingly,
the Under the Cherry Moon album
was
it an album?
it hit and misses. I would
Yeah.
argue that sometimes it snows in April, which is
Yeah.
from Under a Cherry Moon,
The Parade album.
is arguably is best ever. So that's a terrific song.
And the thing about for me about Prince is he could write with a fragility, right, and almost a femininity as well, and then he could bash you with a big rock riff, and yet he had this very like insignificant guy in terms of size, but not in terms of the impression that he made. I don't think there's anybody like him who's been able to move genre and move around so much and
let's also mention his fashion choices as well. At one moment he was wearing purple, the next minute she was wearing peach. The next, he was and was a man of very few words. He gave very few interviews.
Yeah.
He obviously had the people that he liked in the American media that he would go on their chat shows every now and again. But he said very little, didn't say much. And he would always perform live on their shows, of course. But interestingly enough, you're talking about a man that played so many instruments and he had these well-arranged strict bands like the Revolution and the New Power Generation, all waiting for his signal. But when he died, I'd bought tickets for just one man in the piano tour. It was just going to be him, a piano, and nothing else. And it was so disappointing that, of course, we never got to see him in that, because he could strip one of his most famous songs, and because he was such a brilliant musician, he could still play it brilliantly, just him on a piano.
Here's another side. If you look at the tracks that other artists have taken from Prince that he's given away, right? Nothing compares to you in 1990. That's just for starters.
Yeah.
Going back, for example, he gave what I'm just looking here. He gave Stevie Nicks a track called
Gareth named one earlier that was
Manic Monday.
It was no,
Shaka Khan.
But Shaka Khan, I feel
Manic Monday you hear probably at least once a week if you listen to the review now.
Yeah, so I just look at the very fact, Art of Noise, Tom Jones, Kiss, and all these tracks that he almost just handed out freely, and some of those in themselves are great bodies of work.
If we consider his songwriting genius is absolutely. You can't challenge that. There's just no way you can challenge it. And I would concede, that he did try different things. Some of them worked, a lot of them didn't. But that's fair enough. How culturally significant was he to the 80s in the sense that, all the girls wanted to dress like Madonna, all the boys wanted, or some of the boys anyway, and two of them are on here, wanted George Michael's haircut. Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet increased eyeliner sales extensively. I got a quiff and a pair of blue jeans like Morrissey. What could we put Prince? I don't remember anybody with a purple two-piece suit and a frilly shirt.
Yeah, but he was wearing there are lots of romantics wearing frilly shirts. Yeah. He was just unique in putting it all together. And what I thought was incredible is the way we haven't mentioned this much, actually. Actually, we haven't mentioned it at all. How he danced. When he danced on stage, he was almost like a ballerina. The way he could spin around on heels.
Yes, I accept
incredible.
I accept all of the above. What I'm trying to say is what influence, whether that be in fashion or in dance style or anything like that, did he have on us or other teenagers?
Quite simply, no one else could pull that off. So why would you try to dress like that? Because he got away with it for some reason.
Also, don't forget, he made it worldwide very easily. Unlike the argument for the Smiths, where they didn't crack the world. So we've got to look at that as well. And it's the longevity of it, like all those songs. It's the way that Richard even finished off there. Dearly beloved, we're gathered here this day for whatever called life. We all remember that. We all knew how.
Well, you remembered most of it.
We'll give you 6 out of 10. But when I was doing some research on this, I came across something that was basically talking about the impact he had on MTV, because there weren't that many black musicians, black artists being played on MUTV during the 80s. There was him, there was Jackson, but that I think is all part of the legacy.
He was almost too sexual for MTV. They didn't like the When Doves Cry video where he was sitting in a bath, a steamy bath,
And there was a
naked.
lot of lyrics on maybe album tracks. Darling Nikki springs to mind.
But it's almost like people they didn't know if he was, actually quite feminine, quite masculine. They didn't know where to put him in those days where you had to put people in more rigid boxes.
I don't think you would suggest he was androgynous in any way. I think he was very much a red-blooded male.
I know, but he gave the impression he gave the impression of being very feminine in his
flamboyant, perhaps more, but flamboyant more than necessarily feminine. But.
Okay, I'll give you
that. I think what you say about the lyrics, and you've mentioned the very famous song. There were songs that, like, if you were playing them in your bedroom or whatever, that if your parents were anywhere near,
absolute filth,
you had to get that off. You were embarrassed.
Darling Nikki, of course, yes, Darling Nikki.
Yeah, and so therefore, even the film Purple Rain, there were parts in that where you had to do the old flip me, but I hope my parents don't walk in here now. So.
What were you stop and rewind? Stop, rewind.
Here's the thing
with your finger, because there's no remote control.
Here's the thing about the film, though. Purple Rain for me is other bands, when they were doing music. Films at the time were doing films based on their performances. They sort of, you saw the concert. He created a whole narrative, a whole story that linked the music together, but it wasn't him playing in concert. It was a totally different thing.
I would. This is another one. His movies, on the whole, weren't great movies.
No, I agree, but Purple Rain was a classic, Stephen. It
was.
Really was.
And it was interesting because it was obviously semi-autobiographical. Biography, and and when he did
it was about his life. Just stick with that one.
Yeah. And when he did play in the movie on stage, it was obviously how he did at the time, building up his career, playing on stage in small clubs in Minneapolis. That's what made it so cool. And
do you ever think if he was around today, what he would be doing?
It's a good question, Rodney. But I think, as sad as his death was, he'd probably ceased to be fairly relevant for the previous 4 or 5 years, hadn't he? In terms of his musical output.
But then most bands that were big in the 80s or 90s are, to a certain degree. Yeah. And would
he have had a resurgence? Perhaps?
Without a doubt.
Well, what caused Gareth mentioned this? What caused the resurgence was that what is now voted to be the best Super Bowl halftime performance. It's often Prince, and whenever you might say he was, he went off in the scale in that respect. If you were ever invited Prince to a party or an award ceremony, and they said Prince was an award, they'd all be waiting to see Prince on stage. Everybody would be making sure they were sitting down when he came on stage to say something.
That comes into the question I would put. Richard, you've already seen. Do you, Stephen and Rodney, do you regret not seeing a Prince concert?
Yeah, they probably do. I never got to see him, and I think it would have been a hell of an experience. It was bloody difficult trying to get tickets for Prince. He didn't tour that often. It was like with so many big artists, it was just damn difficult to get tickets to go and see him. I can remember when Richard went.
Yeah, I went.
Was it in the NEC, Richard?
I went to see Prince, I think, about 6 or 7 times. But this is also another point that I'm glad you've mentioned. Live shows and touring, because not only would he go and do a 2.5, 3-hour show, very often a couple of hours later,
after show.
He'd be doing after shows, and I think he invented that very much. Where he would
DJ.
Well, it was mostly doing another 2-hour set in a small club in London, or it was incredible. His energy is a thing I think Prince.
Here's
got.
some
Or
here,
theater. His shows were theater.
theatrical. Here's something that just hit me is I can't recall an artist covering a Prince song that he released himself. So while Sinead O'Connor took his song, he never really did that version, pushed it out himself.
Sometimes he wrote specifically for that artist, which I think was the case for
Yeah.
Manic Monday for the Bangles, and certainly was the case for A Feel for You with Shaka Khan. He apparently, the story goes, with Nothing Compares for You, he wrote it for himself and recorded it and decided it didn't really work very well.
Yeah.
And then when Sinead O'Connor, I think he actually tried to a certain extent to take it back, but because the relationship between him and Sinead O'Connor wasn't great, apparently.
Feel for You, by the way, was originally on one of his earlier albums.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was called maybe just Prince. But Feel for You was a cracking version. She just changed it. You know, all that rapping in between.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was singing it. It's very much his version was very much in that stripped down. I want to be your lover type feel. But Shaka Khan did change it dramatically.
Right.
So I guess I've not heard many artists actually cover a Prince song as opposed to Prince giving and I think that's a sign of actually you can't mimic him. You can't replicate that magic sauce if you like.
Yeah, they're kind of like it's off limits sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Back to the Nothing Compares to You, that it didn't suit him. I'm surprised at that, Stephen, because there's a song "Beautiful Ones" on the Purple Rain album, which is quite like Nothing Compares.
I say it didn't suit him. I don't know. Have you heard the Prince version?
Yeah, it's I have heard it, and I think it's really good. But I think there was something about Sinead O'Connor's voice that maybe just lifted it a little bit. I like the Prince version, but I think that whole video with a tear rolling down her cheek, and she had a unique voice. It did suit that song. So I think some people might say on that particular song, her version might edge it.
So guys, as Guardians of the Vault on this special new Vinyl Vault series, you've got to decide whether Prince is Platinum Club Lounge banned for life. Where are you going? Stephen, I'm going to go to you first.
Despite the fact that I've played Devil's Advocate a few times through this discussion, there is no doubt whatsoever that Prince should have platinum status in the Vinyl Vault. It's difficult to imagine somebody who had more cultural impact in the 1980s in terms of his songwriting, his movies, his exceptional desire to try out new things and create some absolutely banging tracks and banging albums. I was, for those of you that listened to previous Vinyl Vaults when we look at albums throughout the years, I was quite a big Prince fan, and his first 4, 5, 6 albums, it's difficult to give him anything other than that elevated status within the vault.
There you go. Platinum status for the Prince. Gareth, what about yourself?
Platinum status for me as well, mainly because he started to tick the boxes that I am quite, I'm going to give a lot about, which is he can stadiums, concert performances, longevity of his albums, longevity of his career to a certain degree, worldwide, and the fact that he gifted away I'm just taking 3 great #1 songs.
There you go.
So for me, easy.
Richard, no doubt you're putting him in.
No, I think I don't need to say anything. Really, I think that the previous guys have said what I was going to say, and I think
he was a champion of short people, wasn't he? Richard?
He was a champion of short people.
Well, for me, this has been really hard. I think it's more like a diamond encrusted.
Back to Shane Easton again.
No.
Just remember Shane Easton.
I was about to say I think it's more of a diamond encrusted platinum level. I think Prince. I think Prince is platinum plus. Personally,
you can't invent new levels.
I know I can't, but I'm just saying if
you can with Prince. You can when it's my artist.
Oh, my artist. There you go. The artist, formerly known as Prince, now Richard's artist.
Congratulations! You have been awarded platinum level.
There you go. I'm available for bar mitzvahs and weddings and the rest. No, I
It'll
think
be
it's
interesting to see in future episodes whether anybody gets
could match.
the full house of all four of us.
I tell you what, though,
Yeah.
that is a great. Therefore, that he's come early. He sets the bar. I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing
Yeah.
to mention. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
He sets the bar. He never managed to touch the top of the bar. He's a bit too short for that. But
Even with his high heels on.
he set the bar in musical terms. There you go. So on Guardians of the Vault, this is the second episode. You've heard the pitch for the purple one, Prince, and he's got 4 Ps, 4 platinum statuses. That's us. We'll be back very soon with more shenanigans on Guardians of the Vault. Guys, enjoyed that. See you soon.
Thanks.